What's doing, Nature Ministries family? This is like Nature Ministries Volume 5. I don't know if I'll keep the numerical system going, but here we are, we're in Ballarat. I met this bloke Dane, like a couple years ago at a skate jam. We've been in touch, and then I got into Dane's sister, Shanara, who is a fellow Christian. She's gonna share her story. So us boys all just had a mad skate. Yeah. That clip will be up on Insta or YouTube or something soon. But apart from that, let's get into this testimony. So let's go.
Hi, so I'm Shanara. I was born and bred in Ballarat. I'm 23 years old, so I've grown up here all my life. I've moved around a little bit, but I've been here for most of my life. So I got in touch with Luke via my little brother Dane. Dane does skating, and got in contact with Luke, and obviously I saw what Luke was doing on his platforms online, social media. I thought it was really, really cool. I'm a Christian, I love the Lord, so seeing another person of a similar age bracket, really working to put out the word of God and really get people connected, drew me towards that. So Luke and I have had a few conversations, and now we're here having an awesome night, and I'm just really looking forward to sharing my testimony and speaking more about what the Lord has done in my life, because it's been so incredible, so much change. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, let's start off with your upbringing, where you were born and your upbringing.
Yeah.
And then we'll just slowly journey it, however God's been working throughout.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So in my personal experience, my upbringing was awesome in a lot of ways, but in a lot of other ways, it was quite rough. I went through a few situations as a young person that really impacted me and my mental health in particular. So my mental health was always something that I severely struggled with. And that started from a very young age, and that continued through all to my young adulthood. I had a passion for dancing, so I spent a lot of time doing that, which was brilliant. It was my escape. I loved it. I went to school, hated it, really, really hated it. Really struggled with that. I never felt like I fit in as such, but my behaviour was a bit of a problem. I didn't really act in the ways that I could have necessarily because of my situations. But I ended up leaving home at 16, so it was quite a tangled situation. There was a lot going on in the home with me and my family. It was just a really rough, awful situation for everybody involved. But I ended up getting myself involved with the police and the court system from very young. I was on a good behaviour bond I think I was like 12 probably was the first time. And then, courts, in and out. I ended up doing a diversion program, which is just something that the courts do for young people who are involved in crime, and it has the hope of keeping people out of juvenile detention. I cooperated really well with that. I enjoyed it. I did something called equine therapy, and that was really, really helpful for me. That's usually trauma-based, so it helped me work through the parts of my mental health that were causing me problems. Things were just rough. It's hard being a young person. A lot of people have a lot of different experiences, and mine was just difficult. So there was, I remember it was a Wednesday, and I had planned it out the entire week prior that I was going to run away. So I went to school as I usually would, and I'd already sort of packed my school bag a little bit, didn't really bring much, but after school went home, had a big argument with mum, again that was a regular occurrence, and then I took off. The first night I ended up in this little spot in Ballarat that has like a little creek, so I went and stayed there, and that night, as if things weren't hard enough already, was really traumatic, because I went down there and it was was like late afternoon, it wasn't quite night time, but there was a man there, and me being naive and like 16 years old thought, oh, like this is fine, like I'll just hang around this person by myself, it's not a big problem. But he ended up sort of following me around and was kind of getting somewhat aggressive as such, and I wasn't really sure what to do with that. I figured maybe he wants what he thinks I have in my bag. So I ended up taking my bag off, which was pretty stupid because he did end up pinching it, and then I had nothing left. But yeah, it was a really low point, a low day. I didn't know where I would go or what I would do moving forward. I had sort of already stepped away from dance, so I'd lost my passion. I'd lost, as I said earlier, that was my happy place. I had lost that, so it was a really low point. Previously to that as well, as I mentioned again, I had struggles with my mental health. I had tried to take my life on a couple of occasions, more than one, and ended up in hospital, and I was always really upset. I'm not anymore, but I was always horribly upset that it didn't work. And that night I remember just sitting down after losing my bag, feeling like I really have nowhere to go. I was disgusted in myself. I hated who I was. I hated my situation. I was just full of like anger and rage and just like brokenness. And I really just felt that there was no way out but that, but taking my life. I didn't make any further attempt at that time on that, and I ended up sitting there and I just cried out to this God that I didn't even really believe in at this point, on the floor in the middle of the bush, like near the Yarrawee Creek in the bush, and I just said, like, if you're there, like, where are you? Like, what are you doing? If you knew my life was going to be like this, like, why did you allow me to be here? Why was I born? I hate this. It was just a lot of yelling and screaming. I'm surprised nobody called the police about this young person screaming in a few bushes. But yeah, that's a picture of how low that point was. And I would like to say that, life just turned around and God just picked me up and put me somewhere else and whatnot, but that's not how it worked for me. Things got worse before they got better. I was with a person from when I was 16. It was my first real relationship, or boyfriend, I guess we could put it. And he was severely abusive towards me. So not for it really at the beginning, but pretty much as soon as I sort of left home, his behaviour was highlighted. And I was definitely victim of that. He had a problem with alcohol. He was raised in a home where his father did things that he shouldn't to his wife often. So this person was exposed to that behaviour, and he carried that on, and that affected me. That involved physical abuse, so violence like hitting, punching. He would choke me. He never would choke me out to the point of me like passing out, but he would say that he did that deliberately because he wanted me to feel it. And also into sexual assaults and stuff like that as well, and having me do things that I didn't want to do, and not really giving me a choice to be able to, because if I didn't, then it would be physical again. So it was definitely a matter of me going like, well, if this God is there, or if there is a loving God, then I wouldn't be in this situation. This wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't be going through this. Looking back to me now, it's a victim mentality. It's like God should just force me to live a certain way. And really, realistically, it's not free will. That's not love either. And that all is part of my testimony, and it's part of me now being able to talk to people and show them how God has actually saved me from all of that. Basically, sort of from being with him, I was with him for just over 2 years. There was a couple of like breakups, but I would always let him back in. Again, that was my choice. If you would. However, I was always scared that like he would come, because he would come uninvited, he would break in if I wouldn't let him in, and then he'd be angrier, so it would be worse for me in the end. But one day his father actually just picked him up, and he never bothered me again after that, which was a miracle, because that was not his pattern. I'd been trying for a long time. Through that, I started to wonder. I just wondered, like, I don't know how that happened. That's so out of the norm. I did nothing. And I had been crying out in absolute desperation, time and time after again, like screaming. I still can picture myself in my bedroom, and I would hold a pillow like this, and I would like bite down on it for hours, like screaming and crying to the point that I'd be sick.
I was in the bedroom over, and you sure I could hear it.
Yeah. When I was young, before I left home, yeah.
Since then, you would just,
yeah.
Not necessarily to God, just screaming.
Just in general.
Like,
yeah.
For hours.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's proof.
Wow.
Yeah. I was broken. And you can testify too. You've seen me from when I was at home, from
I've seen it
moving forward.
To the end,
yeah.
And even like when you did push everyone out of your life, and then there was that point where you let everyone back in, that you realised that you could trust, that you let your brother, like, we were always there, but you let family that you hadn't in the past into your life.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah. No, thanks for adding, bro. Going off, what Dane said, that was definitely part of it. So through when this relationship finally cut off, I did reach out to some family that, I didn't really know, because, our family had, as I said, was broken, and there were family members that I'd barely even really gotten to know, and I was just so fed up with my life at this point that I was just curious. Who are these people? Are they really that bad, or do I want to know them? I just wanted to know where I come from. I wanted to find my identity. I wanted to figure out, like, do I actually fit in somewhere? What is this life? So when I was 15 years old, my biological father died as well. That was part of something else that created a lot of anger. I couldn't even tell you, if I'd be honest, that I was sad. I was filthy with him. I was so angry with him. He hadn't really made much effort in my life. My brothers, who I grew up with, they have their biological father that my mum married. He was always a fatherly figure for, since I was 2 years old, but he wasn't my biological father. My biological father didn't make an effort. That was always very confusing to me. He ended up getting cancer, and he died really, really young. Which, for me, just made me angry. The way that I viewed it was, you left me once, you didn't try, you didn't even make that effort, and then you go and die. You take the easy way out. I don't even get to ask you those questions. I don't even get to tell you how you hurt me. Like, there was just so much anger. Through me dealing with that and reconnecting with some family, I reconnected with a second cousin of mine that I hadn't seen in years and years, and he was only like sort of in and out briefly through my young years when I was at home. Connected with him, that just brought so much positivity in life to me. I met again with who I now basically refer to as parents, because they are with me through everything. They have had me in their home twice, living, taking care of me. They support me. They show up all of the time. Their name's Sam and Craig, and they had been the biggest blessing. I had started seeking some support services, so I had started seeking like a social worker for me to work with. I'd started seeking some support. I wanted to get my life on track at this point. And I was also diving heavier into the drugs, heavier into the alcohol at this point, and I really knew that there's no halfways with me. This will kill me. I knew inside that I'm going down this path, and it will take my life. Like, I won't stop. I won't know how to stop, especially if it silences what's going on for me, and if I find some peace. But I guess there was maybe some hope, because why else would I reach out for some help? A positive thing was that I really wanted to get a license. I wanted to have some independence. Sam, who is, Sam and Craig, she volunteers, she helps young people get their license, so people who don't have parents or like a car or money, stuff like that, people who don't sort of have that access. She does volunteering, so I actually got linked with her. From there, I started obviously driving with her. At this point as well, like I was driving unlicensed, with in my car, drugs, weapons sometimes, doing crazy stuff. And every time I would see Sam for our lesson, like I'd kind of sort of tell her all about it. I don't really know why. I didn't really understand why I was doing that. But looking back now, it was like she would always listen. She just stuck by me, like through everything. Me driving unlicensed, me showing up the way that I would show up, like in all my mess, like she just stuck so solid. She would speak about Jesus sometimes in the car. She was very careful about it. She wasn't pushy, she wasn't preachy at me, but she really showed that she wanted me to come to the Lord and know God. It was really through her that I really started seeing that some Christians can actually be cool. I had been really hurt by religious people as well, just on certain occasions, like with my behaviour and things I was getting tied up on. I'd had people who were Christians say to me, you're going to hell, just crazy stuff like that. And that again made me distance further and just believe that there was not this God at all. And again, even if there is, I don't want to know him. I want no part of it. These people are nasty. But yeah, she really started showing me that that there is something different about some of these people. Just through her behaviour, her actions, her care towards people, it showed me that this isn't normal. There has to be something more to this. Like, she's not just a nice person. I could just feel it. And so I started becoming a little bit more curious. Still wanted no part of it though. Yeah. I had the belief that me becoming a Christian or me believing God or me doing anything like that, I needed to get my stuff together. I needed to clean up. I needed to not be basically who I was, and I didn't know how to do that. So I really felt unworthy even. I can't do that. Maybe one day if I'm not an alcoholic, maybe one day if I'm not snorting lines all the time, maybe one day if I don't need to pop pills to relax, or maybe one day when I'm not running around, doing stuff that I shouldn't, engaging with the law in the way that I shouldn't, maybe then I'll become a Christian. I don't know. Or maybe that God would want me then. I've learned now that is so far from true. We'll fast forward a little bit. I moved to Queensland. I made the decision in 48 hours and just was basically screw everyone, screw everything. I hate this. Still nothing seems to really be working out for me. I was just desperate. But I had sort of gotten to a point where I'd had enough. I lost a lot of my care. So yeah, I went there. I was messing around with people who are gang related, who are heavy in organised crime, who are using drugs on the daily. And I really inserted myself into that space, which didn't lead to anything good for me. On the outside, it looked like I was having a ball. I was doing some modelling for this girl who did lashes and all this stuff, and yeah, it probably looked like I was having the time of my life. I was definitely at the lowest I've ever been, and I was pretty low before that, so it was bad. I was there for, I'd have to check on my phone. It wasn't long at all. It was a few months. It wasn't even a year, closer towards a year than 6 months, I'd say. But I ended up coming back, and at this point, I was in a relationship again with somebody that I shouldn't have been in a relationship with at all. He wasn't really as heavy into the stuff that I was doing, but he was making quite a lot of money moving drugs, just selling weed, and I would justify it going, oh, well, I've been doing worse. I've been, that's okay, it's fine. It's just weed. And if people want to buy, then who are we not to sell, that type of thing. And yeah, we would get high together 24/7. So like it was not good for me. It's trying to escape my everyday all the time. So clearly that means like if you're using a vice, if you're drinking, you're doing drugs, you're running to something constantly, that takes you in your frame of mind, or even physically, whatever it is, it takes you far from where you actually are at. That shows you that something's wrong. I felt that I was not strong enough to admit that or to address it. So I continued doing that. And that ended up leading me to the point that turned my life around. That happened in a night. So on the 27th of October in 2021, I had relatively a normal day. I'd hung out with some friends, gone to Creswick, gone for a drive, just hung out. It was all chill. And I actually wasn't high, which was unusual. I was relatively sober during the day, which was cool. Finished up that was really cool. Late afternoon, I come home, had dinner with my boyfriend that I was with at the time, and we had made like weed brownies. So we did that all the time anyway, and he offered me some. So we thought, oh yeah, well let's just have a bit of a sesh, like let's relax, let's hit it. So we did. I had a lot less than I usually would because I didn't really want to be up, going at it all night. I really just wanted to have a good sleep. So I had much less than what I usually would, which was interesting, which is quite significant to the story as well, which is really strange. So we ate together, and that he decided he wanted to go and grab some snacks. So he has then jumped in the car. I'm chilling on the couch, no problem. I couldn't be bothered coming because it was cold and gross outside. He heads off. It was only a couple of minutes after that like my chest was in such pain, like my heart, like sort of right here was like, it felt like I've got a knife in it, and it was so painful. And I was just getting really dizzy and just really, really strange, like nothing I'd ever experienced before when I had brownies. Again, I had very little, so I wasn't feeling high. I was just having these like physical symptoms, which was really, really scary actually, because I hadn't experienced something like that before. I definitely had some yucky run-ins with using drugs and alcohol, but I hadn't had anything this significant. And there was this deep and inner fear in me at that moment as well, that I knew wasn't from the drugs. I just knew that there was something really bad was going to happen, and I was in a lot of trouble. Then I like collapsed. So I'm sort of I'm on a couch sort of like this. I'm laying down. My phone has gone on the floor. It's over there. It's not even an arm's length. And I remember trying to hop up because I thought, I need to call my boyfriend. I need him to come home now. Like there's something really wrong here. And we lived out of town. So we lived like sort of 20 minutes, probably a drive from the hospital at least. So I thought, no, this isn't good. And then I realised I couldn't move. I just didn't have any strength. So I sort of had just like rolled off the couch and I'm laying there. It was not good. Then my breathing started to just be really inconsistent. I feel like I was gasping for air, but I wasn't getting the air that I needed. And then because of that, I'm sort of passing in and out. I was really scared because he had to drive quite a few minutes into town and then get what he wanted and then come all the way back. And I remember just feeling this wave of fear going, okay, like my boyfriend's going to come home and I'm going to be maybe dead on the floor, and that's going to ruin his life. Like this man's going to be traumatized. I won't even be able to tell somebody what happened because I won't be here. Like it was just, there was so much going through my mind. And then I heard his car coming back up. Now I thought, okay, now at this point I'm definitely tripping. Like I'm 100% just out of it. I'm not making any sense. Maybe I'm fine. I don't know. But I was so scared because it wasn't like him. Like he wouldn't have made it made it to the supermarket and back in that timing. He'd forgotten his wallet. This man never, ever, ever forgets his wallet. I had known him for years. He never, ever forgets his wallet anywhere. So that was a miracle. That was incredible. He said that when I came in, I wasn't good. I was in and out, and then I just collapsed. I wasn't breathing. I wasn't doing anything. He got me back to that point, and he threw me in the car, and raced me to the hospital. He had tried to give my mum a call. She didn't answer, so she probably didn't even... It was quite late. And then he tried to call my auntie as well. She didn't pick up, but a voicemail was left, which I still to this day have on my phone. It's disturbing. You hear me screaming in agony and just sort of then moaning and groaning, and then you hear me sort of like... Sounded like I sort of vomited a little bit, or just... It was horrible. And then nothing. I'm just sort of like not making any noise, and then you hear my boyfriend at the time going, baby breathe, and then it cuts out. From then, we were not too far from the hospital. He carried me in his arms like this, lifeless. I sort of come back to it, and I was trying to tell them
Might I add something?
Yeah.
You did manage to get on the phone to Mum, and I do remember hearing in the car you were screaming.
Yeah, screaming.
Help me, Mum, help me. Get me, Mum.
Yeah.
And then, like...
Oh, yeah, she did end up picking up, didn't she?
She
didn't.
in the shower.
She didn't pick up initially.
She was in the shower, and
that's
then she
right.
called you back, and you were like, Mum, save me, Mum. And
yeah.
And then that made Mum very stressed.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot that part. It's a big. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. That's crazy. That's okay, bro. Yeah, so got to the hospital. I'm then sort of like, I'm back with it now. I'm asking them for help. I'm freaking out. And I don't really remember this part. I sort of remember bits of what I could see, but I don't really remember how I went out of it or what exactly happened. All I remember is seeing my boyfriend stand in like the emergency sort of area, just with utter fear. And me, I'm like thrown onto a stretcher, and all these doctors and nurses have run out, and they're like rushing me in now at this point. They took me to resus. I'm out of it. They got me back, and they're pumping they've got like an oxygen mask on me, and they're just pumping the bag. Come back with it. I was having a bit of a talk with them and stuff like that. And then things have changed. My memory with that is a little bit off. I don't really remember all of those parts. But what I do remember is being told later on that, I stopped breathing. And I remember feeling like the life, like fall out of my body, I guess you'd put it. I remember really feeling like I'm actually not breathing. And I feel them doing weird things to my chest. Okay, this is really weird. Oh, this is bad. This is really, really bad. I remember I sort of had a quick glimpse first of sort of like if you were looking in from a roof and you look down, I could see myself on the bed, many doctors and nurses, like the room's chaos. I could actually see that happening in a moment. It was just a quick glimpse. And then I remember being back in my body. They were pumping me with oxygen, and I remember actually physically feeling all of this, which they were so surprised at later on when I was recovering in hospital. I talked them through it, and they said, nah, you weren't. You weren't with it. And I said, oh, yes, I was. I feel every minute. I knew what was going on. I could feel it. I could feel like my lifeless lungs doing nothing, just being pumped. And they pump it hard, like you have never had your lungs being opened up that widely. It hurt. And it's probably the most helpless you can feel, I think. I don't think I'll ever feel that out of control or helpless ever again. And it was scary because when you can feel your body doing nothing and doctors and nurses doing the work for you, and you think, oh, well, this could be really bad, like I might die, you think about death. So you think about, well, what's going to happen? I don't know. My first thought was, well, if there's a God, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. I am an addict. I have not been busted for some of the crimes that I've done, but if I was, I'd be doing probably close to life in jail. Like, I'm a piece of crap. That's how I was referring to myself at the time. I'm dirty, like I'm stained, like there are people on this earth still, but God, who have no idea about some of the things that I've engaged myself with, some of the things that I've done, some of the things that I've looked at. So I was thinking about all that, and I was like, I'm screwed. Like, I am so far, so far gone, and it's too late now. That's when I felt my spirit leave my body. I, again, felt myself leave, and I looked down. They were working on me, so they were trying to resuscitate me. They had intubated me, so they had put breathing tubes down through my esophagus into my lungs. And then I was not able to be moved yet into intensive care where I needed to be because I was that unstable, so they had to keep me there for a bit. But yeah, I saw all of that. I saw the work being done. I saw just my flesh just laying there, just doing nothing. And I then left that spot, and I'm now in this space that definitely wasn't Earth. I thought, oh, what the heck is this? Like, it was just this huge, white, gorgeous space of nothing. Like, there was nothing that I could see. There was no object. It was just this. It was sort of like pearl. It was shiny. I was actually doing this. Like, it was painful to my eyes. But it was beautiful. And instantly I just felt peace. Like, I just felt so safe. I felt loved, like a way that I don't want to cry. Oh no. You'll have to cut that out. Okay, no, I'm not going to cry. I felt loved in a way that I have never ever before. Oh gosh. And I remember feeling like, okay, wow, like there's something so much more to my pain. Oh no. Give me a sec. It's positive, I'm not sad. It's a good thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just felt that there was really, I knew that there was so much more to my pain and my life up until that point. And for the first time ever, I just made myself vulnerable, and it's crazy because I didn't even believe in this God, but I called out, I just said, Jesus, where are you? Where are you, Lord? And then I said his name again. I just said Jesus. And I felt that man come in. Before I saw anything with my eyes, I felt that man come in, and everything changed. It was the most powerful thing I've ever experienced. It was so much better than any high I had ever had. It was so much better than being drunk. It was so much better than any of these spaces that I'd put myself in. Like, that was an escape. It was beyond incredible. I felt his presence come in, and then I saw him. So I didn't see his face. I saw from his arms, sort of from here-ish down, and sort of from like here down, and the rest he was glowing, like he was radiating. He had like a sort of like, I don't know if it was shorts or like a skirt, but it was sort of just like baggy cloth, but he was just glowing. And he just stood in front of me. He just came and he just stood there. And he said my name, Shanara, and he told me that he has another name for me. I now know that that's not my earthly name. You know, Shanara is the name that my mum gave to me when I was born. But the Lord has a name for all of us. We are actually his children. And even though I hadn't read the Bible, I hadn't been living this godly life, I really felt like, oh, you know me, like you're real. And yeah, I really want to know you. Like, your soul just wants to be so close to him at that point. The only thing that he really actually said to me was, go, tell my people what you saw, tell my people what I did for you, and tell them how I saved you. And I replied back, I said, yeah, I will. And I promised him that I would get sober. I promised him that I would turn my life around, and that I would dedicate my life to being with him and being a Christian and talking to people who were just like me, talking to people who aren't in church. I will still talk to people who are in church, but reaching people who were as lost as I was, who were as broken as I was, and who was quote unquote who was as bad as I was, because even through everything that I'd done, even though I was dead because of using drugs, like, he didn't stand there and tell me off. He didn't point a finger at me. He didn't punish me. He definitely didn't justify it. But what changed me was his love. It was him. I knew that he knew everything. I knew. And there was a point as well, when I was saying I will get sober, I went to sort of like explain myself. I went to tell him, and he just went. And to me, that felt like him going, I already know. I know. It's okay. I know. I forgive you. And that in itself, that was what changed my life. I left the relationship that I was in. I think it was not even a fortnight afterwards. And that was definitely it was my first love. Like, I felt like I was in love. Even when I left him, I definitely did feel like I loved this person still. But I knew that God had saved me from that. I knew that it wasn't of God, and I knew that God had so much more for me. Because if he can save somebody like me, if he can pull me out of where I was, regardless of what I've done, regardless of the, all of the things that I'd taken part in, everything I'd exposed myself to, the mess, like the brokenness, if he can just love me and be willing to save my life in that point, who am I not to live a life for him and really turn this around? So yeah, I left that relationship. It's definitely been a rough road, but I am sober. I've been sober from drugs since that day. I've not used drugs. He's completely and utterly set me free from that. I didn't go to rehab. I wanted him to be my testimony. I wanted him to be my source. Professional help, though, is necessary. That's my own story. I'm definitely not an advocate for doing it by yourself. That's not strength. It's okay to need help, and I have had a lot of help, just not particularly from a rehab. I have had an alcohol and drug counsellor and an outreach youth worker that I worked with for an extended period of time. I have gone and gotten myself a ridiculous amount of counselling. I have worked on my trauma. I've addressed the alcohol. The alcohol was definitely a hard one. I still screwed up here and there with that one. Definitely had relapses there. But I believe solely now that God's 100% set me free from that, because the last time I screwed up with that, I really felt that he redeemed me afterwards, and I really felt that lift, that burden just go. And he's just completely and utterly, radically changed me from the inside out. And yeah, that's my story. It's just been incredible. He hasn't stopped. He's been relentless in saving me. And I believe that through telling my story and my testimony, that there is power in that. It brings glory to God for what he's done in my life, and it can encourage everybody else. It can show them that he is real, because nobody can tell me what I did or did not see, and I saw him. And everybody who knows me and who I was can see that there has been a significant change. So it's a beautiful thing.
Amen. Maybe I'll ask a few more questions.
Yeah, that's okay.
So was it really just that moment that changed everything, or was after you came out of that moment, was there some things that happened that helped you to develop your relationship with Christ?
Yeah, so there's definitely been other situations that have helped me further my faith and extend my belief, I guess. I have had God reach me in ways that are just incredible. There was a point where I was in a car, I was driving, and God spoke to me, and I heard him audibly, which not everybody does. I mean, he can talk in many different ways. It's not just always like a big booming voice that you hear. And this was quite a long time ago, but he asked me to call my mum and tell her that I'd forgiven her. At this point, that was a hard point, because there were some things that I was hurt by that Mama did, but she hadn't apologised as such. We hadn't had that conversation or anything, so I thought, that's weird. Like, why would I call her and just say, hey, Mum, I've forgiven you? Like, it's uncomfortable. And at this point, my mum and I weren't even in contact. She wasn't even picking up the phone when I would call. So I thought, oh, she's not even going to pick up, God. Not happening. I kept driving and I turned the music up. Then he asked me again. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. And then he asked me a third time and I thought, fine, all right, God, I'll freaking do it. But I'm not going to, she's not going to pick up. You know, I'm sort of having this conversation with God going, she's not going to pick up. She won't, yeah. And she did pick up and we had a conversation, and through that moment, me being obedient and me doing that, I have been able to really work on my forgiveness, because pain was coming from a place of unforgiveness. And I've learned that the more forgiving I am, the more mercy I show, and the more I do everything I can to love like Jesus loves, the more he sets me free, the more my relationships work out better. Things just go smoother, and I see change. And then when I don't, it helps me to still get through it, because I know that he's working and I'm in a good place. You know, my forgiveness, my heart's in the right spot. If that person isn't, that's not my responsibility. I can't do anything. But as long as I'm in the right spot with the Lord, then you know, I can make it, and I will see his glory in my life. And just many other situations. Late last year, I just bumped into somebody out here who now I have been bringing to church. He was homeless at the time. Praise the Lord, he's not homeless anymore. He's actually got a home. And that only happened as of Wednesday last week, which is just incredible. Conversations with him, seeing him change as well, just through our friendship, through me talking about what God's done in my life, and just through praying over this man, asking God to just step in and intercede and do things in this person's life, just because I care about it. I can see this person's heart. I want them to experience what I have in God, and then I'm seeing it happen, you know. So that it grows my faith. It grows my faith.
That's amazing. Sick. I've got 2 more questions.
Yeah.
What's the Lord been doing in your life recently, and where do you think he's directing you and got you doing? Yeah. So the Lord, at the beginning of last year, he helped me actually get out of the work that I was doing, which was like sort of tradey stuff, just like contract work, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really fulfilling. You know, it was just money. I felt God ask me, which is crazy, on a Friday to just quit and to not go back on the Monday, and I have rent to pay and responsibilities, so that was pretty wild. But I had been growing in my faith, and I know the Lord's voice and I know to obey it, so I did it. And through that, he actually helped me get into uni, which was something I was really scared of doing. I always had a lack of confidence in that regard. I didn't really think I was smart enough to do education again. Screwed out in school, dropped out, you know, all that. So, but I did it. I allowed him to lead me. Went in, I did a Cert 4 in community services, and through that I've really found my passion, and I feel that the Lord is leading me to work in the space of community, so work with people with significant exposure to trauma, PTSD, things like this, but more specifically alcohol and drug related problems. So I feel that God's really got me in a space at the moment where he's providing me with the opportunities necessary to grow that, and so that I can really step into these spaces with my education, with the Lord, and with the Word of God, and impact these people's lives, since I understand, you know, I've been there, I get it, and I really feel like God's going to use me in that space powerfully. Yeah. Amen to that. That's sick. Last one. What's something that you would like to share to your community, or like what's one thing out of your story that you would want the world to know? Something you could encourage people with, or something.
Whether you feel it or not, Jesus genuinely will and is currently doing everything in his power to show you that you are his and that he loves you, that he is real, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. You can run as far as you want, but he is always going to be present, and you're never too dirty for him. He doesn't care. He sees all your mess. He knows everything. He even knows all your thoughts. He knows every word before you utter it. He knows everything, and regardless, which is pretty crazy, he loves you. And that's the thing that I believe all of us deep down are seeking. We're seeking acceptance. We're seeking identity. We're seeking these things, and you will find it in God. And you're never a write-off. I don't care if you're in prison. I don't care if society says that you're not good enough, or that your family don't accept you, or you don't have friends, or whatever it is. God has a purpose for your life. And if you seek him and draw near to him, he will draw near to you. So you should do it.
Amen. Big ups, Shanara, for sharing her story. She had the whole crew watching. They're gone now. But, that was epic. Had a good skate with the lads. We all came here, heard Shanara's story, so keen to share it with YouTube and all that. So much love. Laters.
Yay!